everybody, we're back again. It's Thursday, the fourth part of our bowl turning series, and we've got Finley behind the camera again today. His younger brother is still at college, so we've got Finn here. If you remember last time on Tuesday, we were doing a bowl where we called it floral feature, so it's a lovely piece of bur elm. And I wasn't quite sure what we were going to get because there was some big voids in it even before we started turning. Knowing how our hours go, so if you've been following this series for a while now, you know that we always tend to rush at the end, no matter how big or small the project is. Knowing how big that hour is, I have now gone and finished the bowl that we started on Tuesday. If you remember, I had the foot remaining, I was going to take it out. My favourite method of reversing a bowl to take away the whole point is using a push plate. One of those. We've made one of those together before. So a bit of fly or MDF with a little bit of router massing on, and you physically push the bowl against it. If you remember, I forgot to put the centre point in, so that was one problem that I had. But the biggest and the main issue with the bowl that we were turning is that one of those voids just happened to be right in the bottom, right in the middle, where I needed to put pressure on. Wouldn't have been safe enough to do that. So I've reversed the bowl now, and I'll show you the bowl properly. I reversed the bowl on a set of wood plate jaws, or wood jaw plates, on the button jaws or coal jaws that you might be familiar with. The difference with these is I find these a little bit nicer to use, only because we've got now a much bigger surface area of contact. So if you're doing something with a really thin, 95% of the bowl's in contact with the jaw. The wood plate bit, the bit that you buy, is you just see it on the back here. It is literally a straight or a flat quadrant of metal with the holes ready to screw into the plywood. I use plywood, not MDF. MDF will delaminate too easily, so plywood's the best thing, and they'll last you for ages and ages. Hold a little bit of dowel in the centre. Once you've made your quadrants, hold a bit of dowel in the middle, then tighten the jaws onto that bit of dowel, then you're free to turn. By doing that, what it does, just firms up the jaw, then you're free to turn whatever diameter you want on the hole point. So really nice, useful set of jaws to have, those set of wood plate jaws. If you go onto the Axminster website and you look up the wood plate jaws, I've done a little video there just showing you how to make them. So right from the bare naked ply to mount them on the jaw, and then eventually cutting them ready to reverse a bowl. So have a look at that video. So that's what we've done. Now the actual bowl itself, that void that was in the bottom, whether you can see that. Is that all right, Finn?
Yeah, if you tilt it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's nice.
So we've got a lovely void down here. Got the void in the bottom. It doesn't go all the way well, it does go all the way through, but not as big as I thought it was going to. You can just see a little bit of bark there. Okay, so I've given that a second coat of oil now. It's going to need buffing off once it's fully dry, and I think that's all it'll need. So I'm going to just see what you can see in the camera a minute, just so I can get the best view. But what a stunning bit of timber, really dark bit of elm. There's enough voids in there to make that purposely done. If there was just one little hole in the bottom of the bowl, it'd look a little bit odd, but because we've got so many around there, it's enough to make it, in my opinion, a feature. And it's in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? For me, that's a nice finish, a nice outcome to that bowl. Some people like plain timber, they don't want any of the bark inclusions, the burrs and things like that, but for me that makes that bowl extra special, unique. You're not going to get another one like it, you know. So that's that one. Let's go to something, I was about to say plainer, I didn't mean plainer. More traditional, I guess. No burrs, no holes, no bark inclusions, a flat, straight piece of oak. Doesn't mean to say it's not going to look nice. The reason I say that is because you get some beautiful medullary rays coming through on oak, as you know. This is a fairly local piece to me, probably about 10 miles away from my door. So we're just going to turn this into a fairly small plate. Probably not a platter. This would be more of a plate, so an individual's plate as opposed to something you serve from. So we're going to go ahead with that one. So,
just before we start,
Yeah.
I just got a couple of questions. One from Kevin. He was just asking, do you have any idea when the LED lights going to be back in stock?
end of the month, Kevin. That's I've looked. Yeah, before I started raving about them, I wanted to let you know when they're going to be back. So yeah, end of this month. So we've probably got another 3 weeks to go. Yeah.
And Tim was just wondering, he's not sure whether you've already done the project where you burnt with the blowtorch and then finish with the embellishing paste.
No, I haven't. No, I haven't. We can do something like that. I've got a pretty full schedule coming up for the next, up until November, but we can do something like that. There's going to be lots of opportunities for these little videos. And whilst we're talking about it, like Kevin's given an idea, please give loads of ideas. These videos aren't a thing of the present, they are a thing of the present, the future as well. We are going to be doing videos from what I can see, forever now, and more of them. So your ideas are going to keep them fueled and keep us, keep them with plenty of content to be able to build on. So keep those ideas coming in, and we just keep adding them to our schedule, our database, and so on. So no, thank you. But we'll have a look at that, Kevin. I haven't done it yet. No. Can I just answer a question from I think it's Chris Sullivan. He's doing a 3-inch bowl, I think it was, and he wants to have a 90-degree corner, so flat bottom basically. Asking what's the best tools. For me, I would definitely rough out with a bowl gouge, and then probably if you wanted a true corner in there, I'd go to something like a box scraper. And there's plenty of box scrapers out there, so you get that 90-degree angle from a box scraper. If you search the term box scraper, certainly on the Axminster website you'll find a couple there. That would give you the 90-degree if you wanted a true 90. And we're also looking at, there's another question regarding what do I think is acceptable in terms of flaws and cracks and burrs and things like that. And that's a very difficult one to say, really. If it's a true crack, so I'll give you 2 examples. Burrs, they're all features in my opinion. Bark inclusions, mostly features in my opinion. Now, here's a couple of examples though of crack or check. No, not even a check. Checks across the end grain. These are true cracks. This one is almost disappeared. Here we go. So, this is you'll see this in a couple of weeks. This is a video that I recorded this morning. It's about making a stool. Like I say, this is going to be one of the recorded ones that I'm going to put out in a few weeks. There's the heart. Can they see that heart? That little spiderweb crack there.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's the heart. That's just incredible. I almost ignored that in that seat because the top of the seat is beautiful. You know, we've got all these sort of things going on. I've ignored that. It's not a big deal to that seat. Some people might think it is. Some people might not like the look of it. Certainly, in terms of integrity to the piece, it doesn't affect it. And for me, that's all part of that timber. I like that. However, trying to do something with that, you know, that's a common thing. That's a bit of end grain off a bit of lumber there. That for me is a true flaw. So I would want to cut between the cracks and use the timber between. I wouldn't include that in any sort of form of decoration. Those are the differences really for me as a turner. But you know, flaws and features, they're very individual to the taste of the person that's working it, to the buyer, and to the piece. You know, so it's a difficult thing. Right, so what we're going to do here, platter. I'm going to do the same thing. I want to show you how we reverse that this time. I'm going to go to the push plate again because I really do like that form of reversing. We're going to skim the surface, skim the edge, and I'm going to really blitz through this because I don't want to leave this for the next session. Just remembered I've got to take my watch off pin. Can I pass you that upon the table? And I'm going to wear a bigger visor this time because we're dealing with bigger pieces, bigger risk. Bigger hazard. Well, the risk is the same, but the hazard is bigger. We're going to have the dust extraction going quite a lot today because this is a very dry timber. No moisture left in this at all. And I'm going to start off with, let's start off with one of the biggies, one of the 12mm, the 1/2 inch gouges. And we'll just run that Run that across this surface first. This one's 55-degree bevel angle. It's one of the Crown of M42 steels. Lovely V flute in this one as well. And like I say, 55 degrees single. There's a very small micro bevel on there, nothing big at all, but just a small one. Okay, let's clean this bowl blank up. By the way, this is held on with a faceplate. I've got 6 screws in the faceplate here, about 25mm long. Actually, it's quite nicely balanced. We're already running at 1000 revs. So flute facing into the bowl at around about 10 o'clock, and I'm just going to drag the surface nice and gentle, hand up here to protect myself from shavings. And just don't try and bully the bowl blank, because it'll always bully back. So a nice gentle pull. So we'll just have a quick stop there just to show you what we've got. Alright, nothing at the moment's outstanding in the grain. Do the same to the outside edge. Checking that nothing's touching the tool rest. Speed is fine, so we'll keep the speed there. Going to drop the handle down now and just skew cut the outer edge. And again, don't wrestle with the bowl blank, just be nice and gentle. Right, we'll stop and have a look, make sure we've got rid of all the old saw cut, and we have. Now you can already see some of those rays coming forward. I'm not sure whether the camera can pick it up, but they're just jutting out from here. Now it may be that we hit some of those as we start shaping. It may be that we don't. We should gain something from somewhere. My go-to jaw for this sort of size of bowl for a sacrificial foot is a C jaw. So we're going to use that on our sacrificial foot. You've seen me use the and talk about the speed sizer. I'm going to go straight to it. I've started using that pretty much non-stop now, so I want to get the internal diameter for the C jaws. C to center. There we go. That's my C jaw internal measurement. Ever so quick, ever so easy. And then I'm going to cut down about 3 to 4 mil. That is a sacrificial foot. It will not be part of the finished bowl. Now we'll drag away the waste. So we're just going to drag the waste away. This is going to be a little plate, so I'm not going to use all of the depth of this bowl blank. I want a nice sturdy base. Okay, I'm going to go to a smaller gouge now.
Dave was just wondering how you decided which would be the base of the batter. So I presume which side.
I look for colour, I look for grain, but most of all, I looked for any issues that might be there. So in this one, for instance, there was sap, and I wanted to show a little bit of the sap. There was a crack in one side which I wanted to get rid of. So that's what I was. All those little features add up to give you a decision as to where to, what to use, sort of thing. I'm going to make this base even bigger. I'm not happy with that size. If I'm going to use this as a functioning plate, I want it a bit bigger. So let's come right the way out. There we go. That's it. Now we can start the shape. So let's get bevel rubbing. We'll get a nice finished cut. Stop that there. A little bit of cleanup on the detail. I didn't know I was going to do that. That just happened. So what we have here, this is the big base. Okay, so we're going to sand that in a moment. Well, we're going to sand the whole thing in a minute. A little bit of decoration on the rim, so a slight OG. All ready to sand. I can already see that it's going to sand beautifully. It's not giving me any issues whatsoever. We're going to put some food safe oil on this, which I can just see behind me. Okay, so we're going to use a little bit of the old chestnut food safe oil in a second. Let's get that sanded up though. Oh, now I did forget, didn't I, on Tuesday, that little centre point. We're going to put that centre point in before I forget. There we are. That's all that's needed. So all of this, all of that is sacrificial, will not be part of the finished bowl. This is our main base here. And we can put some decoration in there, do whatever we want with that if we wish. So let's get the dust extractor going. We're going to go through the grades, 100, 150, 240, 400, and we're going to use the rotary sander as well, as usual.
Just quickly, Callum was asking which resin do you use to fix chisels into new handles, or do you use araldite?
Grab that box over there with the luminous colours on it behind the spray. There you go. That's it. I use this one, Callum. So the Z-Epoxy. Okay, this particular one's 30-minute, but there's a 5-minute as well. So I would go for your handles, go with a 5-minute. Finn, there's a bradawl somewhere. I was using it. Here I've got it in my pocket. So I made this one a couple months ago now for the live. And that's what these are all held in with. That's the resin there, and that's this stuff. I use it on loads of different things. The smokers, which you'll be familiar with, Callum, and a lot of the Christmas decorations. Anything that I need a really strong bond, a butt joint, I use this stuff. Okay. So sorry, Lily, I didn't give you this one. This is the Z-Epoxy. It's the Z-Epoxy 30-minute and the 5-minute. Maybe you could put that up, Lily. There we are. So I'm going to sand. I'm going to put dust extraction on. We're going to use the rotary sander, 180 grit, 240 grit, and 400 on that one. And we're going to use the 100, 150, 240, 400 on the normal hand sanding. So here goes. All the heavy work gets done with the first grade, this 100 grit. Then we're going to go and take away those previous sanding marks with all the others. So I'm going to check in a minute. I just want to see where we are. See what scratches or what tears we have to concentrate on. But this area is a little bit more there. I mean, this is a good timber. It's looking after me. There we are. So that's the 100. Now we're down to 150. So it's really weird, you know, you get one piece of oak and it'll turn beautifully and sand wonderfully as well. You get the next bit which will be a real difficult grain and struggle with. And that's, every timber is exactly the same. You get some good, some bad, and there's no way of knowing really until you start turning it. So that's 150 grit. Let's go to a 180 on the rotary now. So what I want to do, if we look just momentarily, so we've got a few rotary scratches, or radial scratches, sorry. I want to get rid of those now with the rotary sander, and then there'll be nothing left at the end then. That was 180, so now a 240 on both hand sanding and rotary.
Alright, 25 minutes in. Keith was just asking, is the rotary sander made by Axminster?
Yeah, so this is, I get a lot of questions about this one. This is my little prototype Axminster one. They're now coming with a wooden handle, a little bit longer foam pad, but you've got two 75mm and two 50mm pads with it now, interchangeable. So yeah, it's the Axminster Deluxe bowl sander. Did I do the 240? I'll do it again. And then lastly we go to the 400 on hand and the rotary. We're going to use food safe oil on this, so we're going to sand it in with a 600 grit abrasive, and that will raise the grain. So that will make that grain rise up, you sand it away so it can never come back again. 400. Have a look, see what we got. pretty bit of timber. Nothing massively going on, nothing wild with the grain, but it's just for plates. If we think about it, for a plate, this is going to be probably ideal because you're not going to get that much movement in it without many swirls in there. It'll be fairly stable. Let's get some oil on it. You watch the colour jump now. So I want to paint this on as opposed to rub it on with a bit of tissue. So I'm just going to grab a brush and a little jar.
Callum was just saying he's looking at a skew chisel, the rolled edge, and he was just asking, is the flat, obviously your skew chisel, easier for a beginner?
That's why I came up with that design. Well, I never come up with a design. It's a German design, but I paired together that and a few other things I like and want in the teaching world. So yeah, absolutely. It's got a rolled edge here to run across the tool rest nicely. It's got a flat edge if you want to use it for scraping. It tapers, so giving you a better balance between the handle here and what would be normally a very heavy end if it was as thick as this part of the steel. And it also ground out the packet around about 25 degrees as well, so not as acute as like an oval skew, for instance. So that's why. I'll be honest with you though, if you were looking at an alternative to that, I start with a standard, a rolled edge standard. If you didn't want to get one of these, I would avoid oval skews to start with if you're learning to use the skew for the first time. They can be a little bit twitchy, aggressive almost. So let's paint this on. We're going to take most of it off, if I'm honest. I just want it to soak in. There we go. So a little bit of 600 grit now. Abrasive, got a bit back there that's wet. Lathe speed to 0, don't get your face full of oil by turning the lathe on at its old speed. We're going to start sanding. We want the grain to rise. And as it starts to dry and drag and get absorbed in, then you can start turning the lathe speed up a little. Hey, not too quick, Colwin. I've got a face full then. Slowly, slowly. So it's just starting to drag a little bit. You see my hand start to move as the as the end grain starts to come around. So that'll do us for the minute. If I wasn't demonstrating to anybody, I would carry on with that. A little bit of taking off the excess. I'm going to raise the speed a little bit, force this drying by getting some burnishing going, i.e. getting some heat in. And then we're just going to buff off any excess. There we are, that should be it. It's already feeling really silky because we've sanded the oil in, we've sanded that stood up grain away. Okay, so let's turn him over, get the chuck on the lathe, and I'm gonna get Finn in a minute, just stand back a little bit, and I'm gonna really push the inside of this bowl out and get it done nice and quick so we can spend a bit of time reversing it. That's it so far. I have to say, people often say, what's your favourite sort of timber to turn? And oak is my favourite, I have to say. Oak's closely followed by chestnut because it's a very similar look to oak. But I do like them, very traditional looking timbers. There we are, so I'm on my sacrificial base. Remember, we always tighten the chuck up enough and we stop just before we hear the first crack. Go, right. Finn, if you want to just stand back a little bit, we'll keep the camera where it is. In fact, if you want to go all the way back, chill out for 5 minutes. So, bear with us guys, I want to keep the camera where it is, but I want to also get this centre out quickly. So, if you ask a question in the next 5 minutes, we may miss it, so just hang fire. I'm just going to have a swig of coffee.
Just over half an hour in.
We're actually doing alright. Right, and because I don't have to answer questions, I'm going to wear my head visor, put some fresh air through my lungs. So I'm going to start with a fairly big gouge. Let's go with a 1/2 inch. One of my old faithfuls here. Again, it's another crown one. Nice long handle on this one though. Okay, 1/2 inch gouge. You can see the grind. Finn, there's just one question come up there. Can you just answer that before we start? Ask that before we start. Is it a question? Or?
Oh no, that's from Axminster.
Oh, it's right. Okay. Cool, yeah, so there's the grind guys, freshly ground a minute ago, so let's get rid of some of that waste. integrity of the bowl, some of the strength left in that bowl. So I'm not taking the to do a platter of this size, or rather a plate of this size, I'm taking it relatively thin, and if we do that through here as well, you're going to get a lot of chatter in this area. It'd be quite weak, so I'm concentrating on this, and I'll do this last. Okay, and I think that was one of the questions we had on the last video as well. But this is probably the best way of keeping strength in the piece.
While you were doing that, was the tool rest and centre above or below?
Just below centre. So you need to set your tool rest so your gouge can actually hit centre point. On the outside here, sometimes you can arc over as you push towards centre, but you're always coming down towards centre point at the end. So I'm just checking to get my depth. I want it to be fairly narrow here, but there is a certain point we get to that we have to stop, otherwise we'll be going through the bottom. Did you hear that? That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Okay, so I'm coming flat across the bottom now. We're going to come right the way across, and then I'll just review it at the end just to make sure I don't need to flatten anything away. But the reason I'm cutting this way and then back, cutting this way going down, I'm cutting side grain. So the side grain likes to be cut. It's an easier form of cutting. So by doing that, you get a much quicker cut. But then, of course, going back to the bevel rubbing to get your nice flat bottom. So it's a combination of the two cuts to get the job done, really. little bit of a rise in the middle that needs to come out. We don't want a gravy bump. There we are, that got it. Okay, we're ready to sand, I reckon. Let's just have a look before we start the noise of the sander. So we'll have a quick look. So what we've got our little decorative rim here, which I'm just going to blend in a little bit. We're going to sand this lip over so it's radius rather than sharp. We're coming down with a fairly nice curve here to a flat bottom. Okay, this is a plate more than a platter, remember, because of its diameter. So platter plate, platter you is like a serving dish, I guess. And you then unload or serve onto a plate. That's how I understand it. That's how I've always been told. So that's sounds right as well. So a bit of new abrasive. Let's go for a fresh 100. Any questions there, Finn?
Not at the moment. I think we might have just had a bit of a connection issue. Sorry about that, everyone, but I think we're all right now.
Right, dust extraction. Have a look, just to double check. We're not doing too bad there. A little bit more work around here though. Onto the 150. $180. 240.
Just gone over 45 minutes in. Oh, we do have a couple of questions when you're ready as well.
Fire away.
Well, Melissa was just wondering, if you were to turn a dry goods scoop, would you basically turn a goblet with no base and then sand a side down?
Yeah.
Yeah?
A lot of the time it's done by bandsawing the side down. But yeah, either way, depending on the size, of course.
Depending on the size, of course, you know, if it's a big one, then you probably need to bandsaw it away carefully.
And Ben was asking, would you be able to advise on how to achieve a good edge on a negative rate scraper?
Scraper. Well, I'll be honest, all my negative rate stuff is done either on the tool mech, the CBN, or hand diamond file to get the edge really crisp at the end. One of those three, sorry. Obviously the coarsest being the CBN, but they all work really well. And it also gives you, you know, that little, they call it like the angel hair cut. You get that sort of crispness of finish. That's on one side. But that's alright. Your question, I would go have a look. Phil Irons, wood turning. Now he on Instagram has posted some very good videos on making little tea caddy scoops. And he does it. You know, I mean, he's made tens of thousands of the things, so it might be worth having a look at him. There's a good source of video as well as pictures.
And Callum was just asking, will you be doing any spindle or balustrade work as well?
We're going to do some in miniature, Callum. Absolutely. I've got some projects coming up in the next few weeks. So where we're going to be doing a three-legged stool. We're going to be making some table lamps, two-part table lamps. So spindle work in those. Finn, I don't know whether you can pan around just to show the pyramid.
Yeah.
Untidy side of the workshop, everybody. So excuse me for a minute. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll hold it. I'll bring it over. So this is going to be one of the projects I want to demonstrate nearer Christmas time. But this is going to be for wood turning. Well, this is the first edition of a two-part edition of Wood Turning magazine. Obviously, Christmas pyramid. Now there's an awful lot of spindle work in there, Callum. Okay, it looks a difficult project. It's an easy project. This is how I'm selling it for complete beginners to be able to make, because one of those is the same as those, is the same as that, is the same as that. So it's all basic turning, but you just got to do a lot of it. So yes, the answer is yes. We will be doing lots of spindle work.
And another question, someone was just asking, what is the advantage of alternating between hand sanding and rotary sanding?
Yeah, no, that's something I do an awful lot. I'll tell you why. You could just bully it and power sand. But what I found with hand sanding and rotary sanding is, if you think about the direction of abrasive, so one side you'll be sanding around, the other side you'll be sanding that way, so you're cancelling each other out. You're not left with those little telltale signs at the end of a little scratch here and there. As long as you start your first two coarse grades by hand sanding, get rid of those then with a bit of rotary sanding, then vice versa as you go down through. It works really, really well. It also speeds the sanding process up. Like I say, you can bully it and do some power sanding if you want to, but I just find that hands-on approach works nicely, works well. Unless of course you're production turning bowls and platters, then don't waste time doing that. Get your power sander on there straight away. Right, I'm gonna speed up a little bit because we've got about 10 minutes left then.
Yep,
Yeah.
just under.
Just under. Right, so I want to take this base off for you and get this finished. Let's just give it. I'm going to just do a very gentle sand with the 600. I always do that. Well, you guys know, you've been watching, most of you have been watching for long enough, you know that I always go to the very last second. And this isn't for you, for anybody watching to rush. Do not, don't try and just, I'm trying to get this in an hour to fit a certain platform that we use, Instagram, TV, all that sort of stuff. You don't have to do it. You've got plenty of time. Enjoy what you're doing. Don't rush it. Bit of speed now. Right, I think, let's have a quick look. Actually, it's a fairly plain bit of oak, but it's a nice bit of oak. It's going to be a really nice plate to use, that one. So let's just take that bit of waste away now. So the correct jaws are already there. We've got a push plate, long chuck key, got a faceplate ring on the back.
Could you just quickly repeat who you referenced for the scoop pictures?
Phil Irons. Phil Irons Wood Turning. So follow him on Instagram. Some wonderful stuff, some wonderful work. Happens to be president of the AWGB as well. Been turning for, crikey, what age is he now? He must be about 65, 70. Kill me for that. No, he's been turning probably as long as I have, so about 35, 40 years I would have thought. And he does amazing work, especially hollow forms and colouring. He's well known for both of those. But he cut his teeth production turning scoops and has turned tens and tens of thousands of the things. So a great, like I say, a great advisor when it comes to doing those types of projects. Right, what we've got to do, we've got to tighten up and stop just before we hear the first crack. I've said it so many times. Make sure that that's got a little bit of pressure against it. Get your tool rest in nice and close. Small bowl gouge. The material on the top is router matting, so this soft stuff is router matting. It's just enough to stop the bowl from being damaged. And I've got a little ring centre here. It's not a single pointed centre, just a ring centre.
When are you going to show deep hollowing with the ProMaster?
I thought I did do one right the way back in April, I think it was. We can do another one again. I do have lots of hollow forms behind me to finish off, so we can do some. Keep asking those questions, keep putting those suggestions down, and that'll fill our schedule right up until Christmas then. time have I got left there, Finn?
Oh, you're 56 minutes in.
Right, I'll tell you what I'll do. 56, so give me a nod when I'm at 59. I'm going to do a rough sanding here, and then we're going to take it off and just show you how we get rid of that little pit. So that was a 100, 150. A little bit more time on there really, but you get the idea.
Why would you use the friction plate, not the button jaws or wood plate?
For me it's quicker, so I'm not messing around with another set of jaws. I don't have to adjust buttons. I don't have to have exactly the right size for my wood plates, so I can make a bundle of plates, platters, bowls, and just use that one plate to reverse them. I just find it so quick. I'm going to take that off, chuck and all, add another chuck, and just very quickly whip off that nib. We'll do that with a little rotary sander just held in the chuck. Very quickly, with a nice coarse abrasive. Let's just use the small one at speed. Go with a 75mm, I would, but this one's got a nice coarse pad on.
You're at 59.
I'm at 59. So what we're going to do, you get the idea, guys. We're not going to have enough time to complete that one, but keep sanding until that's gone. Up to 400 grit, and then your little bit of oil, and we're done. Finn, we better think about it. There we are. Hope you like that. That's our final piece out of our 4 bowl and platter selection. So we're going to have to go straight away. I'll see you again on Tuesday next week. So have a great weekend. Enjoy your bowl and platter making. Same time, same place. Bye bye. Have a great weekend.